Hi everyone, I'm Abigail Sartin from the LSU AgCenter. I am an agriculture and natural resources agent for beef cattle and forages in Vermilion, St. Mary, and Acadia parishes. And I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about cover crops today. So just as an introduction, cover crops have gained a lot of interest throughout the state and even the nation for a lot of different reasons. Predominantly for cash crop producers, there's incentives to plant these to combat soil erosion, nutrient runoff, a number of other environmental concerns, and they're also known to fix nitrogen back into the soil, but also they could be used as a forage source for cattle. And it's no secret that here in Louisiana we have a lot of beef cattle, especially down in my area of the state where we have a lot of sugarcane as well. So there's been some growing interest in if there's any way that we could introduce these cover crops into that rotation and make it successful for cattle producers to use as for forage as well. And it's obviously no secret that Louisiana's cattle industry is very heavily dependent on forages. In the summer months, we're very dependent on warm season perennial grasses like Bermuda and Bahia grass to make hay for forage, also to graze. And then in the winter, we have a lot of people that take advantage of annual ryegrass for a winter annual. So no matter what kind of cattle you're producing throughout the state, what segment of the industry you're involved in, if you're a cow-calf producer, if you're a seed stock producer, you're taking advantage of the forage and the grass that this state offers. So regardless of that, even though Louisiana is really unique, and if you do it correctly, you can almost get 365 days of grazing in some areas of the state between those winter annuals and those summer annuals. There still might be times of the year where we kind of have these forage gaps. So thinking about maybe April, before like your ryegrass is kind of starting to play out, you are running out of that and you need to get those pastures ready maybe for your summer annuals. And then thinking about those summer annuals aren't quite ready yet. So during that time, you might be in a little bit of a limbo where you're feeding hay, or you might be feeding some concentrate to supplement those cattle. And then there might be other times of the year thinking about kind of this early fall period as well, where you don't have ryegrass ready yet, but you are kind of starting to want to rest your summer perennial pastures. So I think that cover crops really could play a vital role in this. Within sugarcane farming, which is one of the big major cash crops in South Louisiana, but we've also got some cash crops up north here, north of Alexandria. So we've got corn and cotton. How can we make these cover crops work in these scenarios is stuff that we're research that we're very interested with in the AgCenter. We don't have any research projects going on yet, but there has been research done at other universities, and then we conducted a small trial plot of cover crops at the Iberia Research Station where we explored how that could kind of fit into a sugarcane system. So sugarcane producers often have long-term fallows where after they harvest, the field may be fallow for a year, but there's also short-term fallows in between where maybe they've harvested some seed cane or something like that to plant. So within those rotations, it could be an advantage to plant those cover crops and either graze them or save them as hay, ensile them and make baleage or something like that. So the interest in this also arose at Iberia Research Station when some seed was donated by a local producer who had been exploring with some sugarcane and some cover crops on his operation. He also has some cattle. So we got this cover crop mix. Most of the time when you get those, it'll kind of depend on the seed company. We don't have any suggested planting rates or any of those kinds of things through the AgCenter for cover crops yet, because it really depends on what the mixture is. Wheat, rye, some of those things can all be used as a cover crop as well. But in some cases you want to refrain from using those in a sugarcane type scenario because that would be considered a weed once you come back and plant the sugarcane. So you have to be careful with some of those mixes and figuring out what's going to work best to be symbiotic for both that crop producer and the cattle producer if they're going to work on this together. So this mix that we had at the Iberia Research Station, we'll have a slide that will show you that has the mix of everything together, but it had some legumes, some vetch, some Austrian winter peas, things like that, that are really known to help fix nitrogen, sort of like clover, that are also really, really high in forage quality for cattle. So the goal with this was to actually get in there and bale it and make silage or haylage. We haven't gotten the results from those forage tests yet, but we did take some just clippings of the actual forage that was out there and sent those off to the lab. So we'll be able to show some slides with those numbers as well, but it tested really, really high in nutritive value. And the biggest thing with this is figuring out the logistics. So if you're going to graze those cover crops, you have to work with that sugarcane farmer and establish that relationship, or work with that corn farmer, however that looks for you and what area of the state you're in, to figure out if you're going to put up some temporary fences. So run an electric wire, some poly wire around the perimeter of that pasture, if you're going to subdivide it, if you're going to strip graze it, if you're going to continuously graze it. There's pros and cons to each one. Strip grazing is a lot more intensive, so you'll have to be out there really actively monitoring every few days how much forage the cattle have and deciding when to move. But you typically get more grazing days from that. You get better use and better gain per acre in that kind of system, but it is a bit more intense. In our continuous grazing system, we're going to see that we don't get as many grazing days, but cattle typically perform better because they can go out and select what they want throughout the pasture instead of being forced to be a bit more selective because they're only allocated a specific area. And it's less labor in terms of you're not moving fences, you're not moving cattle. So you just have to kind of decide what that looks like for you. You have to decide if there is a water source available or if you're going to have to truck water in. Fortunately, in South Louisiana, where we've done some of this research, we're able to get water fairly easily through canal systems and things like that, but that may not be something that's as easily accessible in other parts of the state. You have to consider what your goals are as well. Do you have lactating cows that you're wanting to try to sustain on this cover crop? Are you wanting to background some steers? If so, that's probably going to determine how you graze these, when you graze these. You also have some flexibility in terms, do you want to plant some cool season mixes? You want to plant some warm season mixes? You could potentially do both depending on how you work that out with the crop farmer, or if they have multiple fallow fields. And then in terms of if you're working with a sugarcane producer, typically one thing that prevents us from getting in those fields as cattle producers to make hay or silage or baleage or anything like that within that pasture is when they reform the rows. The rows are really big and it's hard to get in there with a tractor. So you might have to speak with him and say, like, consider what it looks like for him if maybe he could leave the field unplowed for the cover crop and let you get in there and cut that before he reforms those rows to plant the next time. Those are all individual discussions that you'll have to have with those producers. But overall, I think that within the state, this presents a lot of opportunity. LSU is looking to do more research in this area, and I think it could really help create a symbiotic relationship between cattle producers and crop producers. We're all working together to feed a rapidly growing population, and we're all doing it with less land than ever. So if we could all work together and figure out ways that we can make this work, all utilizing similar resources, I think it presents a lot of opportunity. Within that and those opportunities for the crop producer, it may mean that he has to spread less fertilizer. If the cattle are out there spreading manure and excreting nitrogen, it may mean he doesn't have to spray, chemically terminate those cover crops. The cattle may be able to eat them down enough, or if you go in and bale them. And for cattle producers, it means less money that you have to spend on feed, which is the biggest cost that cow-calf producers or cattle producers in general are going to incur. You spend most of your money on feed, so that's something you won't have to worry about as well. Overall, a lot of opportunities here, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to anyone at the Ag Center. Thank you so much for your time.